Okay, continuing with my spot illustration, this is my inked sketch. What I love about digital art is I'm able to improve upon what I did. I'm able to look at it and kind of analyze it and use my own marks and shift them around. So now I've got kind of a nice center line, but I want to make that center line the center of the Christmas tree here and the center of the little Christmas tree here. And so I use distort to bring it over, or use skew. Let me see, maybe if I use warp, I can just fine tune it in little places. And this is why we went through compositing at the beginning of the semester. So whenever we put things into the computer, we can feel as though we're in full control of them. Because we are. We have all the capabilities we could want. Okay, so now that Christmas tree is lined up. Their snouts hit about the same place. Yep, all of that feels pretty even. I want it symmetrical, and yet I want this one to look more feminine, this one to look more masculine, even though they both have antlers. But we'll let that go. They're elk. Maybe they both. I don't know enough about biology. Reindeer. There we go. Okay. And now at the top, I can do the same thing. Transform. But this is supposed to be my wife. That's supposed to be me. The acorn's supposed to be my boys. You know, you gotta have reasons for things. And then I just tweak the warp just a little bit so that everything else stays pretty lined up, but then the middle of the Christmas tree is truly in the middle there. And I see if there's anything else that needs a little bit of work. And just small movements, I can kind of tug and rearrange. Now this is so helpful, especially when you're doing things like caricatures or other very, very sensitive types of illustration where little spaces matter. So that made a pretty big difference, you know, and this looked good to me when I was doing it, but now this looks so much kind of cleaner and tighter. It all makes sense. Now if I put a box around it, I'm thinking of the overall shape of the illustration, right? And I'm wondering what I really need. And I'm seeing that this flares out more than I want it to, right? I want to bring that in a little bit. So now, what I could do is just, again, it's just like compositing, lasso around this, just like I was compositing a landscape, someone else's work, duplicate it, and then I can play with it. I can transform it. I can bring it in a little bit. I can rotate it. And I think ultimately I'll go with something like that. And then let's just get rid of the white. And then I just want to get rid of everything behind it. Remember that selections can be modified. Careful selections are very important. So I'll go behind it, delete, then go on top of it and delete. And then now I just need to clean it up. Now I'm doing this all before I take the color away because I want as accurate a depiction as I can get. So underneath I'm going to make a blank layer with all white so that as I erase away, it's clean. So I'll use an eraser at 100% opacity, nice hard edge, pretty small, and clean up any debris. Okay. Now that it's cleaned up, I can play with its shapes and sizes a little bit more. Maybe warping it a little bit, making it a little bit bigger. There we go. What I love about organic lines like this is that when you warp them, they don't go out of perspective or anything. They're just your own choices. All right. Okay, now I might need to add some inking. All right, so on a new layer, and you can digitally ink right over your sketch in Photoshop if you wanted to, just like you can do it in Illustrator. But I might want to connect some of these lines, 100% opacity. I'm just using a mouse right now. But even a mouse, if you use white and black, you can kind of sculpt it pretty well. Though I do like the stylus more for being able to be more pressure sensitive for size. Okay, I'm not going to try to clean up everything this way, because that's why I'm going to make it into a vector. And you can see that the lines are still kind of fuzzy. But once I think I've got it pretty much where I want it. Let's see what happened here. These are little details that got lost in the scanning with the ink. So I can bring those back. And that's why I scanned it at such a high resolution at 400. Because even here I'm just using a 3 pixel brush just to get these little shapes back that I lost in the scanning. Digital art gives us full control of the printing more than any other media, because everything has to go through digitization now before it's printed. So if we're making things for reproduction, like a Christmas card, it's very good to have control of these skills. Okay, I'm not going to worry about smoothing it out too much, because Illustrator will do a better job of that. So I don't want to get sucked into this endless correcting. But there was this that I wanted to lighten up a little bit. And I'm just painting with a small brush of white here. What I want is just a nice, simple image to be able to take into Illustrator to live trace. Okay. So now I'm going to hit Option, and then Layer, and then Merge Visible. And I'll put everything onto one layer for me. Then I'm going to select the whites using the magic wand and a tolerance of 32 with contiguous turned off. So I'm going to select all the whites, then I'm going to go to select inverse. So it's all the things that aren't pure white, and I'm going to duplicate it on top. So what I have now are just black lines, or dark lines. Now I'm going to say image adjustment desaturate, take all that color away, right? And to see it, I'm going to turn on that blank white layer behind. And now I can duplicate several layers of those black lines and then set them to multiply. And that will thicken them up. See that? And as long as they're not too thick, like that's getting a little too thick. But often what our problem is when we've inked something is we need to thicken them up more. So this technique allows me to do that. Okay, so now I've got pretty clean black lines. So let's see the difference from the beginning. From that to this, right? Okay, now I'm going to turn off that white layer. So I have just those two. And I'm going to say File, Save As, a PNG, so it saves the transparency. And I'm going to call this my Carl Inked Spot Test, because it's still a raster image to the desktop. But it's a raster image that I am confident of now. Then I can minimize Photoshop. I can take that PNG, which if I open up in preview, you'll see it'll be on a gray background, so it's transparent. And you can see it's still a raster image, still based on pixels. And now I'm going to open it with Illustrator. And it's a fairly high resolution scan, about 400 pixels per inch. And in Illustrator now, I am going to trace it using Live Trace and convert it into a vector of just black lines, just like we did our black and white logos. And then I'll show you another way to do it that's free if you don't have Illustrator. Okay, open with Illustrator. There we go, here it is. So when you bring in a raster image into Illustrator, notice that it'll immediately give you the image trace options. I'm going to say silhouettes. Let's try that. And then I'm going to use the advanced settings right here. Look how smooth that made everything. But it reduced a lot, especially things that were too close together. But there, that's good. So it's here in the oak tree, it kind of oversimplified. So if I go to these options, which are right here, the image trace options, I'm going to ignore white. That's why I like silhouette. It automatically ignores white. But now I can play with fewer paths. Smooth it out even a little bit more. Find a happy medium. I want more corners. See what that does. Try to get me some of these shapes back. And maybe less noise. There we go. That will give me some shapes to work with in there. I can pull those out and get that back. Looks pretty good. I still want it to look hand done. But this will really kind of bolden them up, and of course it will turn them into vector lines, which are perfectly clean, no longer pixel based. I like what it did to these little marks.